Hello, everybody. This is the Pipeline Podcast. Today is Thursday, June 26th. The episode is going to be about the Iran v. Israel. We're going to have some updates there. In my opinion, there's kind of a lot of information going on between this conflict. That just happens a lot when there's war and like attacks and stuff. If you ever heard the expression like fog of war or whatever, that's kind of what's going on here. So it can be hard to follow the story. As far as I can tell, I have followed it accurately, even though it has been hard at times to find updated sources and all that. So we're going to be covering that today. We're also going to go over the New York City primary for mayor. The DNC, like super leftist guy won. We'll cover that a little bit. Get excited. We're going to get right into it today. The first source is a terrible source. It's Wikipedia. When you're trying to find accurate information, sometimes you just got to go with what you can find. So a lot of people were saying Iran broke the ceasefire. Where we left off on our last Iran v. Israel update, we were talking about how the ceasefire started at midnight a couple of nights ago. During that night, there was a couple strikes by both Israel and Iran. But after about, I think, 7 or 8 hours, the strikes did stop. There has not been any other strikes since then. So the ceasefire is working, but it started late. So the first one, obviously, Wikipedia, terrible. But it does say here, so June 25th, despite initial violations by both Iran and Israel, the ceasefire held as of June 25th. The IDF stated that it intercepted a UAV apparently launched by the Houthis. So I think people saw this, that the IDF intercepted a UAV launched by the Houthis and took it as like an Iranian attack on Israel, but it looks like that's not the case here. And we do have another source. Again, it's not a great source. It's just Google's AI, but it kind of confirms what Wikipedia is saying, that there is no strikes on the 25th in the Iran-Israel conflict. And there's also been no strikes as of the 26th either. So again, ceasefire got off to a late start, but it looks like it is holding. In other Iran v. Israel news, we have some mainstream media and Trump beef going on right now. The title of the article here, Trump once again got under CNN's skin, and it's beautiful to watch. This is like a very conservative source, but basically what happened is CNN was saying like the US strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities didn't work. So it looks like there was like a NATO press release that said the US strikes might not have taken the nuclear facilities in Iran like out completely. And CNN reported that. And then we have another source here, like the Trump administration, getting pretty mad at CNN that they would report that. So there's some good beef here. I kind of want to play both of these videos just for the context. The one with Trump and Pete Hegseth is actually pretty funny. It's a pretty good video. So we'll just watch the CNN one first. So this takes place after CNN reported that the strikes on Iran's facilities weren't successful. And this is them kind of elaborating on it a little bit more.
For a couple of reasons. Number one, because Kelly O'Donnell did a great job trying to get information out of the president in the face of sort of some personal attacks on her and the rest of us. But much more importantly, this was not anything to do with the U.S. military or their abilities or their, patriotism, anything at all. This was a report on an initial assessment by one intelligence agency, full stop. And as you said, the president didn't like it, but it has nothing to do with the men and women of the U.S. military. And that was a tell. The fact that he keeps harping on that and is trying to manipulate the conversation to make it like the reporters who are reporting on something that part of the U.S. government is trying to figure out has to do with not liking the military, which is just ridiculous on its face.
Yeah, so she calls it ridiculous, but in my opinion, do your due diligence if you're a reporter, just like we did here, like try to get more than one source. And if you do find one source that says like the nuclear facilities are still operational, maybe do a little digging. And again, like it's wartime, you might have to wait out that fog of war, as you say, just to find out what actually happened. And obviously, if you report something like this, that the facilities are still operational. Trump's going to take it as a hit piece against him. He's going to take it very personally, whether these CNN reporters thought they were doing the right thing or not. So that's kind of just a take on it. So another thing that is worth bringing up here, and it's kind of a take I never thought about before, but the other day, Bernie Sanders was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and they were talking about the implications and the ethics behind Trump, the president, suing media companies for libel, for like slandering him. And basically, Bernie was arguing that the president of the United States shouldn't be suing any of these media companies because it might be seen, the lawsuit might be seen as intimidation. And even if these media companies were honestly reporting what they believe to be true, they still might settle with Trump just because they are intimidated and they don't want repercussions if they like fight him in court. It was Bernie's take that I'd never really thought about before. I don't know if I really agree with it. The counter to that is like, if you are being slandered by the media, you absolutely have the right to sue them. And we see Trump do this a lot. And we also see Trump win a lot of these suits. But most of the time, they're settling out of court. They're not really going to court. So, I mean, this whole response by CNN here could just be because they don't want to get sued. I don't know. But it's something to keep in mind here. So we'll go over this this Trump video. So I believe this video came out first, and this is what the video we watched was responding to. Let's check it out. This is a good video here.
Opponent to your Zelensky meeting for a tactical reason with President Putin.
Let him answer this question.
Hello, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah. There's a reason the president calls out fake news for what it is. These pilots, these refuelers, these fighters, these air defenders, the skill and the courage it took to go into enemy territory flying 36 hours on behalf of the American people and the world to take out a nuclear program is beyond what anyone in this audience can fathom. And then the instinct of CNN, the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political reasons, to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't.
I do kind of agree with him there. I do think mainstream media hates Donald Trump.
Care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. Of course, we've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce? And when they introduce that preliminary, a preliminary report that's deemed to be a low assessment, you know what a low assessment means? Low confidence in the data in that report. And why is there low confidence? Because all of the evidence of what was just bombed by 12 30,000-pound bombs is buried under a mountain, devastated and obliterated. So if you want to make an assessment of what happened at Fordo, you better get a big shovel and go really deep, because Iran's nuclear program is obliterated. And somebody somewhere is trying to leak something to say, oh, with low confidence, we think maybe it's moderate. Those that dropped the bombs precisely in the right place know exactly what happened when that exploded. And you know who else knows? Iran. That's why they came to the table right away, because their nuclear capabilities have been set back beyond what they thought were possible because of the courage of a commander-in-chief who led our troops, despite what the fake news wants to say.
But you're not.
So yeah, that could be true. Like that could be the whole reason Iran is following this whole ceasefire in the first place, because it's true that their facilities are like out of commission. And we've also seen sources from Israel say that, or agree with that, and say that, yeah, the nuclear facilities were in fact bombed. We don't know if they were completely destroyed, but they're not operational right now. So I think he's right here.
Disputing the report said what it said, even though it was initial.
The report said what it said, and it was fine. It was severe, they think, but they had no idea. They shouldn't have issued a report until they did, but we've gotten the information.
Agree. I definitely agree with that, especially when it comes down to like conflicts, like war, like strikes, like missile strikes. You really do need to double check and maybe even triple check the report to be accurate before you post it, because it is very hard to find reliable information in like a timely manner when things like this happen. And we've seen that before as well. I mean, it happens all the time, but like 7 or 8 years ago, when Iran struck a military base, a US military base, all the initial reports said there was no casualties, but in fact, they just didn't wait long enough to find the casualties. And there was casualties. We see this with like earthquakes also. They'll say like 100 dead, but then you check back a week later, it's like 1,000 dead. And so I think that's kind of what happened here. There was just initial reports that the nuclear facilities were still operational, but they went with that rather than wait and get other reports to back it up.
And I think Pete said it better than you can say it. And you should be proud, especially you, should be proud of those pilots, and you shouldn't be trying to demean them.
No,
those pilots flew at great risk, a big chance that they'd never come back home and
Who's
see
this
their
lady
husbands or their
interrupting the
wives.
president?
Let me just tell you, you and NBC, fake news, which is one of the worst, and CNN, New York Times, are all bad. They're sick. There's something wrong with them. But you know what? You should be praising those people instead of trying to find some. By trying to go and get me, you're hurting those people. They were devastated. I got a call from Missouri, great state, that I won 3 times by a lot. And I got a call that the pilots and the people on the plane were devastated because they were trying to minimize the attack. And they all said it was hit. But we don't think it was really maybe hit that badly. And they were devastated. They put their lives on the line, and then they have... And I'm not referring to you, but real scum come out and write reports that are as negative as they could possibly be. It should be the opposite. You should make them heroes and heroines. You should make them really people that they were so devastated when they heard this news. And you know what they said? One of them, I spoke to one of them, he said, "Sir, we hit the site. It was perfect. It was dead on." Because they don't understand fake news, because they have a normal life, except they have to fly very big, very fast planes. But it's a shame. You should be making them heroes. All right, in the back. Go ahead, back white, yeah.
Yeah, so honestly, like, that was great. And I kind of agree with everything Pete Hegseth and Trump said there. Like, it's okay to have a little bit of pride in your country, even if we did straight out attack Iran. Maybe it was for the better. Either way, don't be reporting misinformation, especially stuff that you really don't have like alternate sources for, just to try to make Trump look bad. It also slanders the military. How are you going to prove that a nuclear facility underground is operational or not?
I mean, it's the United States giving more money to military contractors to go bomb other nations for no actual reason. And now Trump is, when asked a question that isn't really important because it's just the media trying to play on feels, he also tries to play on feels by involving the military. No one wants to call it out for exactly what it is, where it's just the U.S. doing a strike on another country because the other country was doing preemptive or non-retaliatory strikes on another country. So this is him just trying to save face, not answer a direct question, as most politicians do.
Yeah, and as far as like the media companies go, if you want to make like a hit piece on Trump, maybe a better hit piece is like, why is he preemptively striking Iran and in escalating the war that Israel already escalated by straight up attacking Iran? It's a better question.
That's asking the wrong questions. Israel doesn't like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it probably just comes down to these mainstream media outlets. They don't want to report anything negatively against Israel. But in fact, that's really what they should be saying right here. Why are we letting ourselves be dragged into a conflict between Israel and Iran? Israel kind of started it here, but we're going to strike them. Like, that's the story you should be pressing. Like, that's the story you should be publishing. If you're like the New York Times and you want a hit piece on Trump, it's a better story.
But our media is complicit in manufacturing consent for these wars or engagements or bombings, whatever you want to call it. That's what our media does, is that they make it so that the American people follow the narrative that they're trying to set out. And it's either, Trump bad or this good or, we got to do this. That's usually how it goes.
Here we just have another source that kind of contradicts like CNN earlier. Bordeaux centrifuges no longer operational after Trump strikes. So like here we have a source that says they're no longer operational. But if you just Google, you can find other sources that say they're still operational. So that's kind of what the beef here is all about. And that's really, as far as Israel v. Iran, this is really the main story for today. It's just mainstream media and Trump beefing. But there really isn't any strikes by Iran or Israel. So that's good news. The ceasefire seems to be still working. I'm a little surprised by that, but it's a good thing. So whatever.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. We'll see if there's any attacks going anywhere. Again, it's pretty crazy for Iran to just get got with a bunch of missiles and then not strike back after like an immediate ceasefire is proposed.
But again, maybe that's because their facilities are not operational. So they kind of got to back off for a little bit. Here we have a little update on the Nobel Peace Prize for Donald J. Trump. Here, Representative Claudia Tenney says, on Truth, I've officially nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize twice! He has done more for world peace than any modern leader. And then we have just a great rant that Donald Trump posted where he talks about what he should get the Nobel Peace Prize for. So we'll read it and talk about it. I am very happy to report that I have arranged, along with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a wonderful treaty between the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Republic of Rwanda in their war, which was known for violent bloodshed and death, more so even than most other wars, and has gone on for decades. Representatives from Rwanda and the Congo will be in Washington on Monday to sign documents. This is a great day for Africa, a great day for the world. I won't get a Nobel Peace Prize for this. I won't get a Nobel Peace Prize for stopping the war between India and Pakistan. I won't get a Peace Prize for stopping the war between Serbia and Kosovo. I won't get a prize for keeping peace between Egypt and Ethiopia. A massive Ethiopian-built dam, stupidly financed by the U.S., substantially reduces the water flowing into the Nile River. And I won't get a Nobel Peace Prize for doing the Abraham Accords in the Middle East, which, if all goes well, will be loaded to the brim with additional countries signing on and will unify the Middle East for the first time in the ages. No, I won't get a Nobel Peace Prize no matter what I do, including Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Iran, whatever those outcomes may be, but the people know, and that's all that matters to me. So he wants a Nobel Peace Prize so bad so he can say he's better than Obama, which is kind of hilarious. But if people didn't hate Trump so much, if he was maybe a little nicer, he probably would have gotten one by now.
Yeah, it's crazy because, I mean, he's still defending Israel, still giving military contractors billions of dollars. So I don't know why they wouldn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. He did everything Obama did, except expand the wars from 2 to 7.
Yeah, and he had way less casualties from his missile strikes as well.
Well, we don't talk about that. Obama also has most deportations. He's got record for that. Deporter in chief.
Yeah, that's another thing. Trump still has not beat Obama's numbers as far as deportations go. He still hasn't beat Obama.
My favorite talking point by the left is that, well, Trump's only been there for 4 years, so there's still time.
Yeah, hopefully he gets up there. I want to see him beat Obama's numbers. But it's funny because we were talking about the Democratic Republic of Congo just yesterday. It is true that next week Rwanda and DRC are going to like sign some kind of peace treaty that hasn't really been released yet, but it hopefully ends the war. And that would be a big deal if Trump arranges that and gets that done. But we'll see if that actually happens or not. If it does, that would be a reason he could get the Nobel Peace Prize. Same thing for Pakistan, India. Pakistan nominated him for one, actually, until he struck Iran. Then they got a little mad about that. The Abraham Accords, maybe we'll cover that in a different episode.
And remember, Obama got a peace prize from taking us from 2 wars to 7 wars, having a 90% civilian casualty rate on his drone program, and deported the most people since Teddy Roosevelt. The moral of this story is that Obama, remember, the only controversy he had was that he wore a tan suit once. Remember, that's the joke.
Right, yeah, no deportations and no drone striking civilians. That was
No
never a
standing
problem.
orders from 2 to 7. Oh yeah, he gave a free giveaway to the health insurance companies by requiring the Obamacare's individual mandate clause required everyone to have insurance, and if you didn't have insurance, you would have to pay a fine to the government. However, they didn't offer a government option for insurance. They said that you had to go and purchase health insurance from a private health insurance company or be fined, and then health insurance companies' stock prices went up a minimum of 15% because of that bill being passed. Barack Obama then leaves office and goes and gets $1 million Wall Street speeches and buys a house in Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, and I believe at that time too, Democrats had control of the House and the Senate, so like they really could have passed like the real Obamacare if they wanted to.
Obama had a Senate and House for the first couple months of his presidency, I believe. The first little bit of his presidency, then they never got it again.
But yeah, so we just want to talk about that. The only reason Trump really hasn't gotten a Peace Prize is because everyone hates him, which is fair and funny. The last little source here isn't Israel v. Iran, but it's Zohan Mamdani declares victory in New York City Democratic mayoral primary. So the right calls this guy a super communist. The left calls this guy a great example of what the new Democratic Party should represent. He blew out Cuomo, who used to be mayor in New York City. He was trying to get elected again, but this guy won. We have a little 2-minute video just about it. We'll just kind of
real quick.
Yeah, real quick.
Real quick. So the 111th U.S. Congress was from January 2009 to January 2011. And so in 2009, for 72 days, the Democrats had a supermajority when Barack Obama was president.
And they could have got Obamacare done then.
They could have gotten Obamacare done without an individual mandate. They could have gotten they could have gotten codified into federal law if they wanted to, but instead they kept using it for 12 more years as a campaigning piece. But they don't offer any policies they're not offering any policies to voters. They only offer these social issues, and we are just nicer people than the Republicans. Aren't we so nice?
I mean, that's a great sum up of it. Absolutely. All right, let's check out this video here.
Today, 8 months after launching this campaign, with the vision of a city that every New Yorker could afford, we have won. We have won from Harlem to Bay Ridge. We have won from Jackson Heights to Port Richmond. We have won from Maspeth to Chinatown. We have won because New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford. A city where they can do more than just struggle. One where those who toil in the night can enjoy the fruits of their labor in the day. Where hard work is repaid with a stable life. Where 8 hours on the factory floor or behind the wheel of a cab is enough to pay the mortgage. It is enough to keep the lights on. It is enough to send your kid to school. Where rent-stabilized apartments are actually stabilized. Where buses are fast and free. Where childcare doesn't cost more than CUNY. And where public safety keeps us truly safe. And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism, to stop mass ICE agents from deporting our neighbors, and to govern our city as a model for the Democratic Party. A party where we fight for working people with no apology. A life of dignity should not be reserved for a fortunate few. It should be one that city government guarantees for each and every New Yorker.
That's the guy who got the Democratic nomination. He won the Democratic primary for mayor of New York City. In my opinion, he represents like a new direction for the DNC, and I think it's a good direction. So we'll have to see how that goes. It doesn't mean that he is the mayor, but he has a good shot at becoming the mayor. So we'll probably have an update in a little bit on that. It'll be like him or the other guy is the current mayor, Eric Adams. Probably be one of them, those two that end up winning. The only thing in this video that he said that like I didn't really agree with is when he called Trump a fascist. I don't really think Trump is fascist, but everything else in there, like he sounds like a great candidate, and he sounds way better than the other DNC guy, Cuomo. He's the guy who had the whole scandal of killing all the old people in the old folks' home during COVID lockdown. It's that guy, and I think his brother is on like Fox News or something. They're like aristocrats. And that really is everything we have today. We'll keep releasing updates on Israel v. Iran as like good stuff happens. And then we'll probably have an update when the New York City general election goes on. If Trump wins a Nobel Peace Prize, we'll definitely go over it.
I don't think that'll happen.
No.
I want to catch your breath.
I don't think it'll happen, but we'll talk about it more in the future, I'm sure. I love to bring it up. Love to talk about it. I do plan on doing a video on the LA riots, another video just to update there. There's been some more developments, so keep an eye out on the YouTube for that. And check us out on Twitch. We do these videos live on Twitch. So go ahead, give us a follow there. And that way you can kind of chat along with the video. If you have a hot take on something we're going over, throw it out there. We might do a little shout out in the video. It's always fun. And have a great day.